Close and lock those doors, thank you. Right, I'm gonna take this opportunity now to just speak to you a little bit about my experiences and my work that I've been doing for the last 3 years now. I'm not going to be talking like anything like what you've heard. I'm not an academic. I do have a degree, but it's in media, so I don't know if that counts. And it's from Liverpool Hope University, so it definitely doesn't. For anyone who doesn't know Liverpool Hope University, it's called Hope for a reason. That's the only qualification that you need to get in. And it's the only thing that you leave without as well. So. But I want to talk to you about what kind of I went through. I, just over 3 years ago now, suffered really heavily with depression. And it's not something that I'd ever thought that I would go through. I didn't have any past history of depression or any mental illness at all in the family. But it kind of got me. And it crept up on me, and gradually, bit by bit, over a series of probably, I would say, about 6 to 7 months, it just absolutely tore me apart from the inside. So much so that 3 years ago, I think this week actually, I tried to commit suicide. And that's a really weird thing to hear, and it's a really weird thing to say. I didn't think that I would ever say that about myself. I certainly didn't ever think that I would try to commit suicide, but depression just got me out of absolutely nowhere, and I had no idea what to do, where to turn, what it was. The reason that, or the way that I felt when I went through depression was a little bit, the way I describe it is like when you're watching a film and you see somebody stuck underwater and you're watching it as they're trying to scramble to the top, and you're panicking for them and you're trying to breathe for them and they just can't make it to the top. And that's how I felt every single day. I felt like I was watching myself underwater every single day. I felt like I was treading water. Sometimes my head would be above water, sometimes it would go below. But every single minute of every single day was a struggle. I forgot what it felt like to breathe, what it felt like to have air in your lungs. I had thousands of thoughts swirling around my head, all at the same time, all as loud as each other. I couldn't make sense of any of them. And I felt alone. Despite a loving family around me, despite a loving girlfriend around me, I felt alone, helpless. I forgot what it felt like to feel anything. I felt completely numb. I knew that I should feel a certain way, but I just couldn't feel it. I forgot how to love. I forgot how to feel empathy. I forgot how to enjoy things, the things that I would normally enjoy. I couldn't go out with friends. I go to watch Everton and I couldn't enjoy it. Bad example. But I couldn't even get angry at them. That's how bad it was. If I was in a crowded place, I just want to be alone. I just want to run away, and sometimes I would. And people around me knew that something was wrong, but they didn't know what. And I've got a very close relationship with my parents. And when they would ask me, if my mum would say to me, "What's wrong?" I know something's wrong, let us help you. That would push me away. It would make me feel worse. Her helping me would make me feel worse because I felt like I was a burden to them. I didn't want my parents, my loved ones, to have to worry about me. That made me feel even worse. So I just lied to them. I lied to myself. I went to see a counsellor. The counsellor told me that I was probably depressed. And I was going in to see a counsellor once a week. And it would be for around 40 minutes at a time. Once you go in and you do your questionnaire and you say your hellos and you catch up a little bit, it's probably about half an hour's worth of actual time with the counsellor. And in that time, I found it impossible to open up about the issues that I was going through, to talk about these things that I didn't even realise that I was feeling myself, and to open up about them. I found it impossible to close them back up in that time. So I was leaving those sessions feeling worse than when I went in. And she would just send me back into the big bad world to deal with life until next week when we go through it all again. So I lied to the counsellor as a way of protecting myself. I told her what she wanted to hear, and she thought that I was fit and healthy and discharged me. I was on antidepressants as well at the time. The counsellor told me to go and see a doctor. And at this point, I was pretty desperate. So I took the counsellor's advice and I went to see a doctor. And it was the hardest thing that I've ever actually done. And I went in to see the doctor and I waited. And I went in and I sat down and I said to him, I think I'm depressed. And I think I need some antidepressants for that. And he said to me, why do you think that? And I said, well, I've been seeing a counsellor and she told me. And he said, well, I'm the doctor, I'll tell you. And I left feeling probably the lowest that I'd ever felt at that time. So after that, being discharged by the counsellor, I, again, was left to just deal with things on my own. And it was living under this cloud of darkness, as I said, with months and months of not being able to think straight, not being able to have a single moment of clarity in my life. I just couldn't think anything. Until one day, things were pretty bad. And I texted my girlfriend and I told her that I was coming to see her. She lived about 40 minutes drive from me. I got in the car and I drove to her house. And probably about 10 minutes before I got to her house, I got a moment of clarity. A clear thought that I'd been begging for months and months. At last. And it just said, kill yourself. And I was so happy to have that moment that I wanted. I was longing for that moment of clarity for so long, and I had it. And when you spend so long without being able to think straight and you get that thought, I had absolutely no reason to doubt it whatsoever. And so I'd done it, or at least I tried to. I pulled the car over and I tried to cut my wrists. I'd never planned for this moment before. I'd never had any suicidal thoughts as such. I might have had dark thoughts. I might have thought about how easy it might be to drive off a bridge or turn into oncoming traffic, but I didn't think about actually doing it until this day. So I'd never prepared for it. I didn't have any weapons. I didn't have any tablets. I had nothing. So I was in my car and I pulled over and I took the only thing that I had, which was a CD, and I snapped the CD and I used it to cut my wrist. And as I was sat in the car, cutting and cutting and cutting, I couldn't help but think, my God, CDs aren't as sharp as I thought they were. It was a lot of hard work, but I kept going. And I didn't have any moments of doubt in it, apart from one moment when a little boy ran past the car. And just for a second, it just gave me a little bit of dignity back. It just made me stop. Because I won't go into it now because we are running over anyway, but one of the main things that I was struggling with when I was going through the worst of my depression, and although I've spoke publicly about it, I've only been speaking about this part of it only recently, but I really, really struggled with this idea of what it means to be a man, what is expected of men, how we're meant to look, how we're meant to behave, how we're meant to protect people. And I always wanted to be a dad. And when I felt so low, when I felt so small, so inadequate, unable to protect myself, it absolutely killed me. The idea that I could never see myself looking after a baby, despite wanting it more than anything. I struggled so hard with that. So when this little boy ran past me, I thought, well, I'm not going to be able to be there for a baby one day, but I can be there for him now. So I just stopped because I thought, I don't want him to see this. And as I was waiting for him to go past with his dad, I wrote a note to my girlfriend, and as he went back out of sight, I carried on. And just at that moment, my girlfriend came round the corner and found me. She had absolutely no idea where I was, but she just, I don't know, by the grace of God, found me before it was too late. And I'm in a real position of privilege. And I'm so grateful for that, but I do see it as a position that not a lot of people can find themselves in. Where I've come back from the brink of death almost to being here today talking about it. And through that experience and speaking about it publicly, I talk to different audiences about this, and I say, through that experience, I can understand why someone might say suicide is a selfish act. I can understand why you might say that. I can understand why you might say, what about the family you're leaving behind? But I would say to those people who say that to be in that frame of mind, to be that desperate, to be that low and that unwell, that you can't see any other way through. For me, it wasn't a selfish act. It was a selfless act. When people say, why didn't you think of your family? I did. They were the only thought on my mind. I was doing what I was doing for them. I was doing it because I thought if I am out of the equation, their lives will be better. And it's only when I didn't succeed and when I had to go home and I had to face the devastation on my mum's face, my dad in tears, it was only then that I realised. It was only then that I knew that I was not well and I had to get better. That was the most inappropriate time. You literally couldn't have timed it worse. Get out. And you fell off the seat as well. I'm made up. But the treatment that I then received after this, I The police were aware of that I was kind of missing, that I was, going to do something. So they had to come to see me afterwards. And the treatment and response that I received from the police was nothing short of diabolical. It was an utter disgrace. So here I was, 20, I don't even know how old I am, 24 it was at the time, 24-year-old man, just attempted suicide. He sat me in a room in the house, and he came in and he said, "How are you feeling now?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And he said, "All right, well, you're not going to do that again, are you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Good lad," and then left. He didn't give me any support. He didn't give me any advice. He didn't tell me what to do. If I did think about doing it again, he gave me absolutely nothing. He left. And I think to have that contact, to have that opportunity, and to squander it like that is an utter disgrace. Because I would argue that was probably the most vulnerable I've ever felt. Because at least when I was trying to commit suicide, at least I was sure about something. At least I felt in control of something. Whether it was right or wrong, I was in control. But at that point, when that police officer came to see me, I not only had to face all the things that I was willing to escape from, but I had to face the consequences of the actions I was willing to take, the reaction of my family, the guilt that I felt. I had no idea what was going to happen to me. I didn't know whether I would be, prosecuted for this. I didn't know whether it would be held against me when I tried to apply for jobs. I didn't know what was next for me. And he had that opportunity, and he wasted it. Because although that's the most vulnerable time, that could have been the most important time. To put your arm around me, to say, "You've hit rock bottom, but you are never going to be here again. There is help available. We will work with you to make sure you get better from here." But he didn't. As I said, I was already receiving antidepressants. I phoned a doctor, which was a different doctor to the one that I spoke about before, because I didn't want to go in. And I spoke to him over the phone, and I explained, and he said, "Are you on medication?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, just double it." And that was it. I was literally left alone to deal with everything. I spoke out about my issues, not because I was trying to be brave, not because I was trying to help anyone else, but the reason I originally spoke out about what I was going through was because rumours started spreading about it on social media, and people were using it against me and trying to make fun of the situation, and it was pretty horrific. By people who really should have known better. But I was seeing this, and maybe any other time it might have pushed me over the edge again, but it didn't at this point. And I thought, I don't want you to have anything over me. So I spoke out. Haven't done that yet. I spoke out about it, and I said, "I've been depressed, I tried to kill myself, this is how I felt, this is how I've done it, whatever, deal with that. I don't want anyone to have anything over me anymore." And the response that I received from that was really, really overwhelming, something I was never prepared for. It was not just people who were saying, "Well done for speaking out." It was people who were saying, "The way you've just described is exactly how I feel, and I didn't think anybody else did." I was receiving messages and emails from people from all over the world who were asking for help. People who were asking for help for their loved ones, wives asking for husbands, grandmothers asking for grandchildren. People were messaging me saying, "I'm going to kill myself at 2:00 on Wednesday. What are you going to do about it?" And my recovery, without me really knowing anything about it, was played out in the public eye. Because a week or two after I spoke about what I'd gone through, I think it was only a week, I was asked to go on the Lorraine Kelly show, and then it was to go on Jeremy Vine's show, and to go on all these national radio and television programmes to talk about what I'd gone through. And I just done it because I thought it was the right thing to do. But even now, if I do any interview, I'll receive messages from people asking for help. And I can do a radio show, the most obscure radio show you can think of, at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I guarantee somebody will message me asking for help. And for them to listen to that show, to listen out for my name, to find my website, to find my email address, and to put really personal information into an email to me, it's a lot of steps that someone is going through to find help. Why are they coming to me and not going to a loved one or going to a doctor? And the reason they're doing that is because they're seeing hope in somebody being where they are and coming through the other side. And that is the key to helping people, is by using real life experiences, real life voices to say, I've been there, I've come through it, and you can too. Mental health is still a taboo subject, but every single person in the world has mental health. Every single person, just like we all have physical health. And just like with our physical health, our mental health can go up and it can go down. But unlike physical health, we're not prepared or what to do if that's the case. The main difference, I would say, between physical health and mental health is if we're physically unwell, we know, understand, and trust the process to get better. If we're mentally unwell, we don't know, we don't understand, and we certainly don't trust that process. So, after hearing from so many people and kind of gaining this kind of understanding of how big an issue it is, I thought, well, I have to do something about that. There's a lot of things that we need to be doing. Education is key. It's not just about informing the people who are sick about that process to get better. It's about informing everybody. As I said, anybody can become unwell at any time, but we've got to be talking to the people who are the shoulders to cry on and the listening ears. If somebody was to go to them and say, I feel suicidal, I feel unwell, will they know what to do? Will they know where to point people? Stigma will always, always exist until we're teaching children in school. By not having compulsory mental health lessons in schools, we're basically we're saying the stigma is right. By not teaching kids that it's okay to talk, we're ultimately saying it's not. We have to be tooling each other up to know what to do. The government, back when Norman Lamb was in, they announced the 0 suicides target within the NHS, which is good. I don't know what the target was before that, but... But again, they focus on the NHS. They focus on A&E and GPs. And these are obviously places to go, but they're not the right places to go. Governments completely have overlooked the importance of intervention and prevention. The grassroots organisations that currently exist in this country, working off a shoestring budget, that offer life-saving services, totally overlooked. And these organisations that already exist can help the government save money. But again, they're totally overlooked. Not something that I want to address. What I have learned since speaking publicly about everything that I've gone through is that there are a lot of organisations that do exist across the country, but they're so hard to find. In Manchester alone, there are hundreds. but they're so hard to find. I know about them now, but I didn't know about any of them back when I needed them. And that's why I'm trying to create, I'm in the process of creating a national database of all these organisations that exist. The database through the charity I've created called Chasing the Stigma. The database is called the Hub of Hope. And that's exactly what it is. It's a place to go, put in your postcode, no matter where you are in the country, and find real, practical help that already exists around you. A place of hope. These places aren't there to replace doctors or to replace counselling, but to work alongside them. If that police officer who came to see me done exactly the same thing as he did, had exactly the same conversation, but said, here's a card for a website where you can find help available to you, then at least that would have been something. If that counsellor at the end of those sessions would have said to me, if you feel like the way you've just described, you've got a week until I see you again, but here's some places where you can go. Here's some numbers you can call. But she didn't. It's about working together. It's about bringing everyone together. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's not what I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to create one platform to bring everyone together to say, here's the help that's available. It's a shame that Norman went because I wanted to have a go at him, a bit like our friend did there as well. But this is something that the government should be doing. It's something that people have been speaking about for years and years and years, but no one's actually ever done anything. I'm running the charity from my kitchen, but I'm doing something. And if we can at least put that product together, put that database together, it's a start. We can all pull in the right direction for the same aim that we all have, which is to help people. So at the moment, the database is, we're collecting all the information from organisations that exist. If you do know any, please log on to chasingthestigma.co.uk and just tell us of the organisations. We'll do the rest, we'll put them on there. We're hoping that the end of this year or the very start of next year, the hub will exist on the website and as a free app as well. I've kind of gone through a not good experience, but I want to use that in a way of helping other people. And if that takes a whole lifetime's worth of work, then I'm prepared to do it. And then I think that's me, really. I think, am I going to hand over to you now? What are you going to do? Neil?